Hi, Luke here, the musician. This episode is sponsored by my goddamn album, which you can find more about in the middle of this podcast.
Hello and welcome to Hey, I Loved That Movie, the podcast where we rewatch the films we loved when we were younger to see if they still hold up. I'm Dan,
I'm Michael.
And I'm Luke.
and for this episode we watched Bulletproof Monk.
This time, baby, I'll be.
Bulletproof Monk.
It's too early for that absolute banger to be
Yeah, it
in
didn't
this.
exist yet. So
Whilst
Well,
this
this
film
is
was
when-
trying to be futuristic, it was failing.
This
yeah,
is where LaRue took inspiration.
yeah. She watched this film. She was like, you know what? I could take this. What I'll do is I'll do it, but not do the bit about it being a monk.
So we should actually talk about the film properly and start the podcast.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the film start. So I have to clarify. I hadn't seen this. This
So,
is Luke's suggestion.
You're welcome.
Luke, was this one that you'd seen a few times before? Or?
I caught it on like Channel 4, like Film 4 at some point, and like half remembered bits of it being like incredible in the worst way. And I love films like that because I refuse to watch films, and more importantly, I refuse to watch good ones if I can help it.
This must
So
be perfect then.
it's fucking beautiful. This film is absolutely fucking terrible, and I love it.
Yeah. So we start off with two monks fighting on a bridge.
Importantly, one of them is played by Chow Yun-fat, who is genuinely like a legend in martial arts movies.
The fight choreography is real weird.
It's bad.
The use of wires feels like they were going for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but failed.
So I think they were. I want to talk about that at some point. I want to talk about why I think the wire work doesn't work in Bulletproof Monks, but it works in like proper wuxia movies, which I'm probably pronouncing terribly. But that like floaty martial arts film is called wuxia.
Martial arts as fantasy, but also,
Yeah.
oh god, the chroma keying shit,
Yeah.
right?
So
Oh, it's awful.
yeah, it was very obviously on a green screen for that
Yeah.
first bit.
We begin in the past.
Yeah. We begin
1940 something in
Yeah.
Tibet.
Yep.
yes with Chow Yun-fat fighting his teacher.
He's the exposition monk.
Yeah, he's the exposition monk.
Really is the exposition monk.
And it turns out that that order of monks protects a magical, all-powerful scroll
That lets you become God.
It lets you control all and everything, which
That's
is
a lot.
like a ridiculous amount of power to put in one object in this world. So the main monk's teacher says, I want to move it onto you. You're going to take control. You're going to be protector of the scroll. You have immortality and magic martial arts stuff.
He also said that he was incredibly undisciplined, but he fulfilled the prophecies, so it's cool.
Yeah, which will come up later in this movie because they don't foreshadow. They
just
take
tell you
black
what they're
tape
gonna
and go, there you go. And then Nazis turn up.
They show
Actually-
up after the exposition monk becomes a short-lived vacation monk.
He was just one day before monk retirement.
No, he was minutes from fucking
was-
monk retirement.
He was mid monk retirement. But I want to talk about the shitty like we pass on this magic and it lasts every 60 years. It passes on. 60 years isn't that long. Like it's
No.
long, but when they were like, "Oh, I'm immortal. I live forever. I look young," I remember it being like, "Oh, like every 100 years." No,
Yeah, not
60.
60.
60. You don't need all the magical young thing. You don't need the immortality for 60 years. you could do it all without that. Why is that such a shitty amount of time? You could just be an old monk protecting it.
Exactly. It's really unnecessary to have the age thing.
If it was like 100, 150 years, sure, but it's not. It's 60. Yeah, then the Nazis turn.
The
up.
Nazis show up. Yeah, they shoot the not bulletproof monks.
The bullet soluble.
Yes.
Permeable to bullets, monk.
Yeah, one of the
Apart from one of them, who appears to be bulletproof.
yeah, who
And
is
also a monk.
Chow Yun-fat, who is now protector of the scroll. Now he's bulletproof and immortal.
Yep.
And escapes by falling off a cliff.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
jumps down. There's he escapes. There's also the other type of monk in the scene. The
Monkey monk?
Monkey, yeah.
Yeah, monkey.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
because head
pro
Nazi
tip.
guy.
Pro tip, items of power must be easily accessible by a child with a monkey.
Oh yeah, of course.
We get the incredible line of monk, 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 monk. And then 60-year time jump to New Monk City.
Yes, New Monk City, where Stifler Monk is pickpocketing.
It's really like it's such a weird vibe of New York City as well because it's kind of timeless. Like we're at the like it's 2003, so we're at the peak of the long 90s now, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like
We're in late 90s.
yeah, time has weirdly stopped and like the future itself has been slowly cancelled.
Yeah, Friends isn't quite ended yet.
Like
Yeah, we're in the late 90s,
Yeah.
2003.
Exactly.
like because the 90s go through until around 2007. So yeah, we have this weird like timelessness to the setting because of that. The glorious pickpocketing and the first interaction between our character, whose name I don't know, nor do I know the name of the actor, nor do I
Stifler.
Stifler. Yep,
His-
Stifler will do. I
His
don't
name is
care.
Carr. His name is Carr in
His
the
name
movies.
is Carr. Like small introduction, he helps someone off the track with
Well,
help of the monk.
So before we get to that, I think so. My problem with this film, and it happens throughout it, there are genuinely good scenes, and I talk about this a lot with this show podcast. There are a lot of good ideas happening. They're all just terribly executed.
Yeah.
Like I really like the idea that one of them is being chased by police and the other one is being chased by Nazis in suits, like Nazi guards. I really like that, and I liked the cutting in between them. And the only time this film has pace of any kind is this scene and the final scene. The rest of the film has no pace or timing.
Yeah, because he steals the scroll. The
Yeah.
Stifler Monk steals the scroll of power
Yeah, so
from the Bulletproof Monk. Yeah.
they jump down. Yeah, they jump down to help a kid off of a train track
Yeah,
because
'cause
she gets her
she
leg
fell.
caught, and I don't know how she got her leg caught. Luckily, all the police had stopped chasing Stifler, so they didn't have to help.
Yeah, so
They
much
didn't help.
of this movie just like, well, the characters are off screen, so they disappear into the void.
They vanish. Yeah, and then Monk does magic stuff,
Mhm.
and which like I don't want to be like, oh, he did magic. He did magic because that is never brought up again that he can do that.
He has the power of whatever's convenient at the time.
Yeah, he has the ability to bend metal, which I don't even know in like martial arts movies is that a thing.
It's that weird thing with like martial arts movies that were made for a white English speaking audience where
So-
like you just have the foreign traveler who can do magic because foreign people woo.
So this is my crutch problem with this film, and I love martial arts movies. I've watched a lot of like wuxia movies. I've watched a lot of Chinese martial arts movies. I watched a lot of Japanese martial arts movies. Watched a lot of American martial arts movies. I've watched a lot of Jackie Chan films. I've watched a lot of that, like Bruce Lee films. All of those types of films. I love them. And I think this film is trying really hard to be a Western wuxia wirework film. But I think the problem with this film, and entirely throughout all of the fight scenes where the wirework happens, because it happens a lot, they do the wirework stuff and then they explain it in the worst way possible. Because he just says, air is existent, thus it can be stood on and swam through. And if you watch a lot of those martial arts films where there is loads of wire work, they don't explain it. They just let it happen.
You don't explain magic when it's a real thing.
Yeah,
Right?
like they don't explain it. And like even in The Matrix, they don't really explain how they do it. They just do it. And then they hand wave, oh, it's because it's in a coded program. And I think that's the problem, is it almost gets like wireworky, high wire work, big martial arts, but it also tries really hard to be grounded.
Yeah, I feel like the other issue as well is that all of the fight scenes and stuff where they are using the wire work, they're just like edited to shit.
Well,
There's so many cuts that you don't quite get the feeling of what's happened being a thing that's happened. A lot of the fight scenes just felt like they did stuff and then edited it together and hoped for the best, kind of like this podcast.
Don't give away our secrets. I think that's because only one person, one of the actors, like the actual actors in it, has experience with like wire work and working. And it's Chow Yun-fat because he was one of the leads in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the like wuxia film that came to the West. He was that guy. So when he does that stuff, it looks great because he's used to it. And you see that in like the final fight scene and stuff. They're the best ones because they just go full wire work and it's fine.
You see it with him avoiding shit early on in
Yeah.
conversations as well, but we have kind of skipped past
Anyway, the best part in the film.
the weird cyberpunk vibe, and my favorite character, Mr. Funktastic.
We should explain how we get from the train track saving to Mr. Funktastic. And what happens is there's a cut, and then they're in this
And then
underground.
he's in the underground lair of Mr. Funktastic. That's it.
I think someone grabs him, and then you're in the first time you're introduced to this character, who may be the best character in the whole film.
Yep, straight up favorite character. You can find me on this. I want to point out specifically that his chest tattoo definitely just says "fucktastic," F-U-K tastic.
It does. It absolutely does.
And they definitely wrote that out of the script afterwards.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Did not change his chest tattoo.
His name is Mr.
so
Funktastic.
good.
So this character, we should explain. His name is Mr. Funktastic, and he
powerfully British.
As soon as he started talking, my brain was like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, he is the leader of, as far as I can tell, an underground ring of criminals,
cyberpunk gang,
that live in an unused part of the subway system in New York. Mr. Funktastic.
Yeah.
He's British for some reason. Which is it's so I don't think people understand how jarring his English accent is.
Oh, it's not a posh person English accent. It's proper full lad, not quite Essex oi oi legend.
It's
right?
lad.
It's lad though.
Yeah,
it's South lad as well.
There's a British bloke for no damn reason. Calls himself Mr. Funktastic. Did you know no one else gave him that name? He called himself that one day.
That's absolutely. Given that it's tattooed on his chest.
He definitely asks people to call him that, and they say no.
It was probably like his nickname at school that he gave himself. Like, just some person calls himself Chaz or whatever. This guy's like, nah, fuck that, Mr. Fucktastic, and he softened it later. After he got the tattoo. So we get the first of the prophecies happen here, like battling with a flock of cranes above.
Yes.
And whilst in the first instance of the prophecy is cranes the bird, this time it's just fucking cranes.
Cranes,
as in, like,
the
lifting
tool,
shit.
the instrument. Yeah.
And I want to deliver the best line in the film, which of course is, "Lucky for you, this little bit of crumpet is begging for some of my funktastic love."
Yeah.
Fucking incredible. The only good line in the film.
So that, like, the quote unquote little bit of crumpet, which feels awful to say. It feels genuinely awful.
Yeah, it's not even like, no British person would actually say that.
No. So that character, that woman, is the love interest of the film. She is. So she turns up in the Mr. Funktastic scene as, like,
she's just there.
She's the one who squares up to Kurt as well, which and kicks his ass.
Yeah, she's like, "I'll fucking fight him."
And then she gives him like a stick or something so he can bash people.
Which no one in Mr. Funktastic's squad, I'm calling it a squad, no one in Mr. Funktastic's squad notices her kicking him a metal pole when he's fighting Mr. Funktastic.
It's so good. Oh, Mr. Funktastic likes getting tied up.
He does like getting tied. We learn a lot about Mr. Funktastic.
That's important for later.
They put a lot of time and effort into writing Mr. Funktastic's backstory.
So we get the, like, party scene in a subway car where once again, character whose name I have not learned because I don't care about the film that much, ties up Mr. Funktastic, the only character whose name I bothered to learn, which he seems to really enjoy, and then she just fucks off.
Why is Mr. Funktastic mildly homoerotic?
Oh, fuck me,
like,
man.
He fully is, isn't he?
Like, yeah. Like absolutely, he's a twink, but like a buff twink.
Yeah, no, he's a twunk.
Twunk.
When him and Carve first meet, there is a lot of sexual tension there.
I mean, like, fighting is always powerfully homoerotic, and anyone who doesn't say so is a coward.
Yeah, no, it's true. You are speaking nothing but facts.
That's what I came here on the pod to do. I love, by the way, the detail of the Golden Palace being where Carr studied, and that's just a movie theater, and he just copies the moves from the movie.
Oh yeah, the Cinemonk.
Yeah, Cinemonk.
The ultimate white guy learning martial arts in a movie.
This is the thing, though, right? Like, that is, I bet there is a, like, absolute cut of white guys that have tried to learn martial arts from just watching martial arts films.
It's fully a trope. It's the trope that goes with the white savior movie, because this is just a white savior movie.
Oh yeah.
It's the thing that really bothered me was it's like this ancient Asian tradition. Not only is it being passed on to one white guy, but two white people.
I have comments on that later, but we will save that for the show. I want to point out the attempt at a cone, as in, like, they're trying stop a strange failure of thinking that is present in like the Zen tradition. The koan our monk delivers is, why do hot dogs come in packages of 10 when hot dog buns come in packages of 8?
Yeah, the hot dog theory monk. Yeah.
I want the listeners as an exercise to think about, why do hot dogs come in packages of 10 when hot dog buns come in packages of 8?
So you buy 4 packs of hot dogs and 5 packs of buns.
Oh, well done, Dan.
Yeah.
Did you? But yes, we are introduced to the human rights organization that are definitely good guys, also
Yep.
powerful, as you know, Bob vibes with the explanations.
Yep, definitely
Um,
not an old Nazi monk in disguise.
No.
Posh English accent, by the way, very important.
Why is so the whole movie? I was trying to work this out. Why is the Nazi's granddaughter very British and very posh? And if she were German, it'd be a bit on the nose.
Yeah,
It just hit me out of nowhere. Like, why is she? Why is she German?
because this is an American film,
It's an American film. If it was German, it'd be on two on the nose, and people would know right away.
and also posh English accents are coded as villainous in
Which is
American movies.
is that why they gave Mr. Funktastic an English accent?
But not a posh one.
No, but we know he's a villain.
I've got a question about Mr. Funktastic, because towards the
Yeah.
end of the film I did trail off a bit.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
What happened to him? Where'd he go?
I will
He
get to
got
that later.
So he got tied to a lift and then starved to death, I assume. 'Cause we never-
So
he just
so
sort of disappears.
I also want to point out a fucking incredible line, which is, "This is America. We don't have enlightenment here."
Oh man, this movie has so much potential.
It's
To be
so close.
Not
It has that much
awful.
potential. It has a minigun helicopter monk, and it still doesn't
It
pull
does
it
have
off.
a really good helicopter scene. So that training sequence,
Mhm.
I think, is the biggest problem with this film. I can't remember what order this film happens in, but there's like a training sequence between Car and the monk,
Mhm.
where the monk is explaining how to do wuxia stuff, how to do wire work stuff in universe.
Explaining how to do in-universe wire work. Yes.
Which is, the areas exist, you know it's there, you can feel it, much like you can feel the ground. Thus, if you just believe, you can walk on the air.
It's so close to almost being something from a Buddhist tradition as well, right? Like discussion of interdependence, and the fact that like the boundary of your skin is actually a lot rougher than you'd think.
What it comes off as is, we want to explain why these characters can do this, which is never, you don't do that. You just let it happen, because it's big martial arts, and big martial arts is cool.
We talk about the suspension of disbelief in theatre and cinema, right?
Yeah.
And part of doing that is like not even acknowledging that there is a thing that needs to be believed.
Yeah, I get why they need it in the film for the story, because the whole arc, Car's whole arc, is learning this stuff, and so he can be, spoilers, he's the next monk, Bulletproof Monk.
Spoilers for Bulletproof Monk, a film from
Bulletproof Monk,
2003, which you
Yeah.
absolutely should have seen. It's one of the
We are
most
currently
points in
talking
cinema
about.
of the last 2 decades.
But yeah, no, like his arc is learning how to do airwalky wirework stuff.
Yeah.
But that scene is like the core problem, is don't explain it, just let it happen.
Yeah, let it be suspension of disbelief, not suspension and wire work explained in the movie.
It doesn't need. I got that joke, by the way. It's a good joke. Well, and then after that scene, you have the helicopter with a minigun attached.
Yeah,
Right,
minigun helicopter monk. Yeah,
This film goes into like, here's some martial arts air wire work wuxia film, and then it goes, but it's actually a Western action movie. It tries so hard to blend them together, and it doesn't blend them. They are constantly fighting for space.
This film is so obviously like after the Matrix as well.
Yeah.
And they saw the like helicopter minigun Morpheus torture scene. And
Yeah.
were like, we can do that. We can do that. Like,
The first Matrix is an incredible like martial arts film in for and by a Western audience. But the critical thing is, the Matrix, which we might talk about at some point, the Matrix got one of the best stunt coordinators in the world.
oh, hey there. It's only me, your resident musician. Just letting you know that I'm putting out an album on Friday, August the 6th, 2021. And it's going to sound a little like this. Oh yeah, It's going to be over 12 hours long, I think. I mean, I'm not sure yet, it's not done. But go to themenace.bandcamp.com and use discount code HILTM15 at checkout to receive 15% off anything on my Bandcamp. That's HILTM15 at checkout at themenace.bandcamp.com for 15% off. Anyway, let's get back to the show.
At this point in cinema, Nazis were the villain.
Not only that, but they were also kind of magical characters and
Yeah.
not really human. That was kind of the problem with Nazis, though, right?
One of them.
Yeah, one of them.
like they
The
weren't
Nazis as villains
Yeah.
in film. The core problem was, there was a time where they were mysticized as the faceless bad guy that doesn't really exist anymore.
the break into the mansion scene is the best bit of comedy in the whole film.
Yeah, Stifler, like when he just tries to jump and just full on runs into that door. Fucking
Don't
amazing.
He turns back to the monk and says, "Don't say anything," and just like tries again.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So that is built on a sort of fantasy version of a real martial arts. It's all about climbing walls and like bridging spaces. Like they get this stuff just enough to put it in the film.
And just not enough to fail.
But they just don't do it enough to like understand why wuxia Hong Kong waifu films work the way they do, because you just do it and it's brilliant and it's amazing to look at and the camera work's amazing. Also something that's not good in Bulletproof Monk.
No.
as we find out in the next scene.
Oh, the editing. Well,
they have a fight sequence that might be one of the worst fight sequences I've ever seen.
It's fucking the dialogue when they're rolling around in Chef's Kiss, but I wrote none of it down.
Okay, so this fight scene, it's between them two because she has a necklace that they need. Because he tries to steal it and she wakes up.
Oh no, he stole her necklace and was going to give it back as a like, I found this thing, when he really obviously just stole it because he is a shit person.
Yep. So yeah, as per usual, this film has a great story and we remember it perfectly.
Yes.
The fighting in this sequence is awful. The actual like physical stunts are bad. The choreography is awful. The camera work is terrible.
Yeah. Some of the cuts, like, they don't even make sense. It doesn't feel like an actual flow of movement that's happened.
So what I think happened during this scene is they filmed a completely different fight sequence, and then they wanted to take bits out and change it around, change the story of the fight, because all of the audio is ADR.
You can tell because they sound a lot closer to the mic than they actually are.
Yeah, a lot of this film is ADR, and it bothered me all the way through.
It's real bad.
But this scene in particular, they ADR'd pretty much all of it apart from like 2 lines in the middle, which means that during that edit, they can't show any of their face. Yeah. They can't show any of them talking. They can't show any real movement that involves looking at their head. So it edits in like the strangest way and leaves these pauses that you can clearly tell weren't meant to be there.
I also want to point out that there is an entire environment that they are fighting within, and none of it is used. There are sofas and tables and chairs you would use if you were in the middle of a fucking fight, right?
Well, it was a flirty fight, and flirty fights are the best fights.
Sure.
It was a flirty fight.
Mate, if I'm in a flirty fight with some guy, I'm going to give him the chair.
You're going to tie him to an elevator and you might starve to death.
Yeah, she started that flirty fight to finish it later. Watch the Mask of Zorro. That was another amazing flirty fight.
Yep.
Is between the Man Spider and the Bone Crusher.
Who would win in a fight, Bonesaw or Mr. Funktastic?
Bonesaw.
Bonesaw's ready, but Mr. Funktastic has his Funktastic love.
Mr. Funktastic might not make as many homophobic remarks as Spider-Man does.
That's true. No, but Mr. Funktastic is incredibly homoerotic.
He really is.
So you bring in opposite energy.
They'd have a flirty fight for sure.
That chest shave was immaculate.
It was. He put a lot of effort into that.
By the way, after this flirty fight, where they decide to work together, and it is revealed our love interest is also the daughter of a mafia boss named, quote, Ivan the Terrible.
Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
mentioned again.
No. Well, they
Mm.
need a reason for her to have explosives. But like, I get why her dad would have it. Don't
Yeah.
quite get why she would have high explosives.
Well, it's not like she's not going to have a connect for it, you know?
No, but why does she have them ready? Is the question.
She was
She
planning to
built that.
take Mr. Funktastic's place.
She was going to take him out. Oh, wow. That's why she tied him to that lift, actually covered in explosives.
Well, like the whole thing with like hanging out with Mr. Funktastic for her was that it was some place where she didn't have a name. Names are important in this film.
Names are important.
It
Yeah,
comes up
like
a few
Mr.
times.
Funktastic and the
Yeah,
Monk and
Mr.
Stifler.
Funktastic.
Well, like
Mr. Funktastic had the best name. I love in a film of names are incredibly important. And all of the names are picked very carefully, apart from Mr. Funktastic.
no, once again, thoroughly disagree. I believe that Mr. Fucktastic was picked very carefully, and then someone had to make a decision. We also get 2 out of 3 prophecies punned with battling for love in the palace of Jade. Jade was her name. Fuck.
Jade, yeah, Jade is her name.
It's like, why do I remember the names of? I don't remember the third prophecy. Something to do with friends they didn't know they have.
It's because the TV show hadn't ended yet.
So that's it. So there are 3 prophecies. The first one was defeating an army of enemies underneath a crane, as Crane saw above. Then there's the
Battling for love in the Palace of Jade.
Yep, and then there's that Rachel will get off the plane.
yeah. And then there's the we were on a break.
Yep.
No, so the final prophecy is you will save people's lives you never knew with a family you didn't know you had.
Yeah.
It was something dumb like that.
It's a really weird prophecy. Like,
Very forced.
feels back solved.
Yeah, it does. So yeah, the monk is kidnapped by the Nazi, the actual older Nazi.
The monk has a dick tattoo, and that is canon.
He does have a dick tattoo.
The monk has a dick tat.
So he tattooed the scroll all over his body.
The scroll that's on his body is the actual scroll, apart from part of the scroll, and that's not the bit of the scroll that's on his dick. No. The rest is in his mind penis, stored deep inside.
The rest he's memorized.
I just love that the monk has a dick tattoo.
Yep. And no name.
This will be important later.
Powerhouse of a person, full dick tattoo, no name.
Our neo-Nazi daughter definitely does the "I'm going to give this monk head" look when she goes down to look at his dick.
Yeah,
which is.
I mean, yeah, you need to if you want to read it properly, you need to make sure that it's a nice, slightly smoother surface. You know, if he's flaccid, it's going to be a little bit like wrinkled up and stuff. You know, you're not going to be able to read it properly. So she's got to fluff him up a bit, and then she can read it. Otherwise, she might get the scroll wrong.
Fucking neo-Nazi fluffer to attain a scroll.
That's the plot of this movie.
Well, and then she uses a scanner that doesn't make any sense.
To scan his brain.
Yeah, no, to scan his entire body. It's just like a green light on a stick.
There's so much like they want to explain all the magic and none of the technology.
Yeah, they put so much effort into explaining things that don't need explaining, and then just make things happen that don't make any sense.
Like the technology is the actual magic in this film, and the magic is like something that they feel the need to explain.
Yeah,
it's so odd.
The Nazi has kidnapped a load of other monks, and he's put them in mind-reading machines.
Whilst electrocuting them.
Well, that's part of the mind-readingness. Why did he kidnap the other monks?
He's racist.
Did he not know which one had this? I mean, yeah, obviously. If there's anything we know about the Nazi character,
he's literally a neo-Nazi. He wants to attain godhood so that he can rid the world of all but the Aryan race.
He's not even a neo-Nazi. He's an actual. He's from World War II.
Yeah, he's just an old Nazi.
He's at least 80.
He was an officer. He was probably like 30.
Yeah, he looked like in his early to mid 30 at the beginning of the film. So he's like
in 90 to 95.
Yeah.
That's old.
It is old. Do you know what it's older than? It's older than the cycle of handing over the scroll to the next month.
Exactly.
Like he has outlived the amount of time it took for them to change. If it was longer, if that tradition was longer, wouldn't be a problem.
So like the scroll was handed to the next monk when our nameless monk was in his like 20s, maybe 30. But like honestly, the actor looked in his 20s then. He looks the same now. So like 30s.
He hasn't.
So similar thing, like he's also like 95 years old. Don't get me wrong, like permanent agelessness for 60 years, I could do a lot with that at my age. Like that would take me on to 90 years old.
It's not agelessness. It's straight immortality.
Yeah, it de-ages you as well because, I mean, spoilers, but you get the scene where the Nazi actually gets de-aged.
I don't like that. He reads the scroll from the scan of the monk's dig tattoo.
He knows that there's bits missing.
Then he gets end of what's written down. He de-ages and gets unexplained magical powers, which is like the only time it's okay is like it's on the Nazi and they don't explain it.
Yeah, that's
they
the
don't
one
even
thing.
try.
They really don't explain what the scroll does that well.
No, and
Even the exposition monk at the beginning
I'm
doesn't explain it.
perfectly okay with that if they also didn't try to explain every other magical martial arts in the world. So yeah, he de-ages, he gets all the magical powers, he de-ages, but he's not immortal yet, he can die. But what I think would have been so much better for the following fight scene, if he stayed old, if it didn't de-age him and he stayed old.
That would have been way better.
I wanted to see old man fighting two people.
You just want to see an old Nazi get beat down, like
Yeah.
old unrepentant Nazi get beaten down. Yeah, cool, grand, whatever.
No, it would have been great. It would have been so much better than him being young.
I mean, this film gets so silly by the end. The fight
Yeah.
choreography in the final battle is almost good,
It
but the
goes.
editing kills it. So during this entire soundtracking for the film, we get interjections of like Orientalist novelty music.
Yeah.
And I mean that, like, as in like exotica as a
Yeah.
genre, which is not actually like written by anyone from the area, but
No.
like just roughly, vaguely, oh, it sounds kind of like this as a vibe, with like no kind of care for like actually how people playing like Chinese classical and folk music actually conceive of how music works, which affects how you play. Sorry, musician, it's actually my job, you know?
Which I think is a core problem of this film that we haven't really talked about. It is a white savior movie that acts on the trope of, it's called like magical Orientalism, where there is one Asian character and they are a magical, normally martial arts driven person who can do all like cool shit. That is a core problem with this film and a core problem with films like it. But this fight scene is where it gets good.
It's the only good fight scene in the movie.
And it's because they release all concept of it being real and grounded. You have the Nazi who uses magical powers to stop a car midair and throw him against a wall. Ridiculous. But like they don't go, oh, he did that because he believed that the air was solid around him.
Yeah, he pushed solid air at him.
He just does it. And that's great.
Yeah, like
I think that's when it gets good because it fully just lets go of this, like the realism that's been bogging down every other fight sequence.
My note was fight choreography in the final battle is great, but the editing isn't, right?
Yeah, no, the editing kills it. Everything else about it is awful. The music doesn't fit. The editing is terrible.
Yeah, the other one that I noticed had really bad editing was the obligatory two girls fighting scene.
Oh god,
Yeah. Because that was too grounded of a fight scene. Also, my favorite part about that fight sequence is, number one, they're both fighting in heels of some kind.
Yeah.
The Nazi woman is fighting in like stilettos, and the other girl is fighting in flat, like almost flat shoes. Like it's a teeny bit of a chunky heel, which is good. I like, as soon as I noticed the Nazi woman wearing stilettos, and I recommend everyone do this in a fight sequence where you notice one of the characters is wearing very tall heels, watch their feet the entire time. The amount of times that she would kick and it'd be a flat shoe, and then the next shot, high heel.
Yeah, because whilst they can walk in stilettos, they're gonna fight in flats, and then you're gonna edit that. But also,
but how good would it have been if she just went, hold on, and took off her heels?
See, that would have been a great comedic beat, and it just the film just doesn't quite do enough to make it.
Well, no, you could make it like a I'm gearing up to fight thing. Like as she walks, she kicks out of her heels.
Yeah, it would have been great. But no, they were like, she has to fight in heels because it's sexy.
She can walk up, do a backflip, the heels flick off, hit the girl in the face, and she wins.
Dig into her shoulder.
In her eyes.
Bladed heels. Bladed heels is the only acceptable time that heels should be allowed to be used in a fight sequence.
Just the guy editing this, like the reason why he's so bad editing is because he's busy jacking it.
The editor for this film was having a hard time from start to end because so much of this film they had to edit around. They had to add so much ADR. They had to fix so many fight sequences. They had to be so careful with the action scenes, so careful with the wire work. Yeah, of course, it's badly edited.
So, like, when you shoot a fight scene, Mikey, like, I assume you do multiple takes of the same choreography, right?
Yeah, and you
Yeah,
plan it out beforehand
it's
exactly how you want it edited
it's choreographed and planned shot for shot.
perfectly, or else
But
you end up with the Jade house fight scene.
the reason why you do multiple takes, right, is so that you can have both the swing of the punch and
Yeah.
the punch hitting. Like, and when you cut between the swing and the hit, you very often like don't cut so that the fist is in the same place. You'd cut it a little bit back because it adds the feeling of impact.
Yeah, fight
Well,
sequences are hard, and especially big, like wire worky air fight sequences, because that they have to be shot from far away, or else they look awful.
because of the wire.
Well, no, just because like the flow is gone. So much like if you watch House of Flying Daggers or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, they're all shot. All of the fight sequences, they don't have many cuts in them because you lose the flow of the movement, and it's the flow of the movement that's so important to those sequences. And that's why the end, to bring it back, that's why the end scene, fight scene in this film, I think works really well, because it's not all close-ups and weird shots that they had to edit around. It just flows.
Has more rhythm to it as well.
It has more rhythm, and I think it's just because they let go of what was bogging it down.
So of course, Carr wins after
Yep.
losing because it's a fight scene at the
Well,
end of a film.
He's kicked off the edge of a billboard that's flipping, and then the monk says, "Remember, you can beat him," and then he remembers that air is solid and liquid at the same time.
Like, so he basically like flips he puts his feet onto like a pole, jumps up in front of the Nazi, and then back kicks the Nazi off the building.
It went full wire work, and that's great because it's not grounded in anything. They just went, "Sure, he can do this now."
Surprise, by the way, it turns out both of them are now the Bulletproof Monk because
Yeah.
they both fulfill the prophecies.
Yes. So
This is revealed because Jade gets shot just out of nowhere.
Yeah, she's the not bulletproof monk, bullet permeable monk.
Oh no, she's bullet permeable girl at this point. She's not a monk.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
But it isn't just revealed then. It has been, in every sense of the word, foreshadowed.
Oh, like really fucking
Like,
heavily.
From the very first sequence of you fought off an army of enemies with crows above your head, with cranes above your head, because she is the one that ends that fight. She says, "Oh, come on, Mr. Funktastic, let's leave." And then you get the best dialogue, which is, luckily this crumpet on some of my, was it Funktastic love?
Funktastic love.
Technically, Mr. Funktastic ended that fight.
Does Mr. Funktastic get a new tattoo as well? Well, no, he hasn't fought Jade in her house.
He has made he has saved friends he didn't know he wanted with family he didn't know he had.
Like, really important question, right?
I have an important question. Is Mr. Funktastic the monk, the bulletproof monk?
Mr. Monktastic.
He has to he'd never give up his name. That's the important bit.
Yeah, it's tattooed on his chest.
Yeah, the monk went
He'll
around.
give up one of the letters.
The monk went around and found him earlier in a sequence we didn't see. And he said, "You're the next bulletproof monk."
I want to know if there were other scenes of him that were cut from this film, because he does just disappear and is so unresolved. But also, I want to point out, right? So the monk has a dick tattoo, and they both get the scroll tattooed on them. Sakaar has a dick tattoo.
He might not have a dick tattoo. He might have had it tattooed somewhere else.
But where is Jade's dick tattoo?
Also,
right inside.
They didn't get the full tattoo of each. They got half and half.
No, they got the full tattoo. They got half of the last verse each.
I thought they got half of the tattoo each.
They got it all apart from the last verse, and they only got half of the last verse each because Stifler had a smaller dick than the monk.
But also, in before one of them forgets half the verse, and then they're just fucked forever.
Yeah, that's it. Done. Over. Oh, whoops. Three bulletproof monks down the line. They're like, why is the last half of the last verse in English?
We could technically reach exponential growth of bulletproof monks in a few more 60-year cycles as well.
Speaking of them having genitals, we get the obligatory bit at the end where they have a bulletproof fuck.
The bulletproof fuck.
Because they have to fall in love now, of course.
Finally, both their dick tattoos unite.
Exactly. That's how you read the scroll. Is they fuck.
How great
we
would it have been if they didn't fall in love at the end?
we get the answer to the hot dog riddle, which is life doesn't work out according to plan, but you can always get a hot dog. To which I reply, it's America. We don't have enlightenment here.
No, the answer to the hot dog riddle is that you have half of the tattoo on the hot dog and half of the tattoo on the bun.
So anyway, how many pumps of funktastic love is this out of 10?
None. I don't want any of that.
I was gonna give it 4 bullets deflecting off a monk out of 10. To be honest, this movie was, and I mean this in the blandest way possible, fine.
How many broken Chow Yun-fat backs because he was carrying this movie?
Oh, fuck. We also
How many Chow Yun-fat hospital bills for carrying this movie?
How many hours did he spend in physiotherapy for his shoulders and back?
So we never find out what happens to Mr. Funktastic and his crew.
No.
We never find out if he ever got to make Funktastic love.
No, he never did.
We don't know if he got really, took the time to explore his love of being tied up more and maybe
No.
discovered some things about himself that he might enjoy. And we don't know how was the party on the subway car.
Do you reckon he ended up going back to England?
Comes back to England like, I've learnt some things. Get me some rope.
Yeah, I'd say 4 Chow Yun-fat chiropractic bills.
This is the thing. I love this film, and it's terrible.
Yeah, no,
it's so bad. I highly recommend the audience watch it, not because it's good.
Like, if you want to watch a good martial arts film, watch House of Flying Daggers, watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, watch Fearless, watch all those
Specifically
stuff.
for what this movie is trying to do.
Yeah, if you want to watch like what this film is trying really hard to beat, there are better options.
Also, the end scene, like the outfits they choose, are just so. We watched The Matrix. It's not even subtle, but also like a solid 5 to 6 pumps of Funktastic love for me. It's good in the worst way. It's like it's not a good movie, and you could enjoy watching it if you go into it with that approach.
Yeah, it has so many early 2000s, late 90s problems.
Oh god, it's so bad.
It's not a good movie, but if you've got some crumpets to layer in
Funktastic
love,
no.
I just realised that Funktastic love at its completion could be used on crumpets, and that's probably where we should end the episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, probably maybe cut that.
Yeah,
the bit where we cut out about spunk crumpets. Anyway.
Spunkets?
No.
Spunk crumpet love.
Or crunks.
Crunk spunk it love.
Yeah, but do you put it in the toaster before or after?
Before.
Crumpet based spunktastic love.
Don't put it on after, you'll burn the spunk.
Don't put it on before, you'll burn the spunk if you stick it in the toaster after.
So with that horrific statement, I have been Dan.
I have been Michael.
I've been Luke.
And you can find us on Twitter at HiltmPod. That is at HILTM Pod. And we're on, obviously, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to leave us a review, let us know how many spunktastic crumpets you would give our podcast.
Oh, fuck.
And you don't have to. But also don't forget we're also on Google Podcasts.
Yep, Google Podcasts.
Anywhere you get podcasts.
Really? You can find the music for this show at themenace.bandcamp.com. That's MENNISS. You can find me on all the socials at The Menace.
I'll leave some links in the description.
Yeah. Bulletproof. He's a monk. Bulletproof. Fuck, he's a monk. Yeah, a monk.
Can't get shot because he's bulletproof.